We go, we're live. What's up, everybody? Make sure my little stuff is working here. Sarah Boone sent it. Sorry, I'm late. Hopefully, nobody said anything important yet. What's up, Lindsay? So I do like this. Do like this. This. Like this. Big JD Delay. What's up? Welcome to the chat. Into the chat. What's up? Y'all ready for the Chancellor of Cheese to get some? My audio's terrible. Is it? My audio terrible, guys? Or something? Y'all let me know if my microphone audio is good. Somebody said it was messed up. Fix my mic. Is it good? We good now? Muffled. Oh boy. Of course this would happen. Better? Okay, cool. Well, I did the old, this is an old audio technician's trick. What you do is you unplug the mic and then you plug it back in and cross your fingers. So it's an old microphone trick you learn in the business, Kick it a few times, All right, so we got the chief of cheddar, the god of Gouda, the princess of Pepperjack, the Cheesicus. So what have I missed? I know I'm a little late. I was on a video call. I couldn't reschedule, but luckily it looks like I made it. The Swindler of Swiss. I like that. Yes, this is live. JD says she's clearly cooked. The hair screams life sentence. The hair screams death penalty. I'll be honest. Why does her hair look like cheese? Look at her. Did you bring my grilled cheese? You didn't? Well, you're fired. Her hair could stop a bullet. Oh, she's got little pink handcuffs on. Adorable. Got to look cute for your death sentence. I mean, I know your life sentence is what I meant. Life sentence. What do y'all think she's getting? Should we run a poll? Let me see if we can run a poll. Matter of fact, I got some memberships to gift. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for some? I think I can do memberships, right? Why is it not letting me? Hang on. Let me see what I can do here. Here we go. Membership gifting. Here comes 5, y'all. Cross your fingers. Court, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Shout out to all the mods here witnessing this moment. Any lip readers in the house yet? Well, I guarantee it's about cheese, broccoli, and cheddar soup. Oh, yeah. Y'all see the little kiosk Christmas tree back here? We did get some packages. I believe a lot of them are ornaments that you all sent in to go on the Kiosk Club Christmas tree. So we will be doing that. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe a little later if Ariel gets home so we can open them together on live and put them on the tree. So has no one made a statement so Sarah hasn't spoken yet, I'm sure. I'm sure she has about 7 pages worth of things she'd like to say. Should we do 5 more gift memberships? Let's try that. Boom. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. We're going to run a poll. Will Sarah Boone get a life sentence? Yes or no? Let's run it. All right. Well, it looks like everybody believes it's going to be yes. Quit kicking your little footies, Sarah. Also, want to take a quick second to shout out everybody who helped the Mumford's Mission charity. I mentioned in the last Wade video, we raised $1,400 in like a day and a half. Went down there to the Greenville Humane Shelter and saved like a puppy, 2 older cats, a kitten, and paid for treatments and operations of, man, I can't, at least 10 dogs and cats. So that was awesome. Thank you guys. Sarah's got that Ric Flair haircut. Does that haircut look familiar? Why does she get pink handcuffs? It's just so cheesy, you know?
Look at her little arms. You should have been doing push-ups in there all these years, ma'am. You going to prison. Has there been any more cheese found in her cell? I don't know. I'm sure she probably eats it all immediately now, whatever she gets her hands on. It was probably hard for her to see them 87 slices get confiscated. We got 1,000 people watching in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you here. It's pretty much the best place to watch this, just so you know. Cement Shoes just became a member. Wonder who's going to be on her kiosk. I don't know. Chester Cheetah. Can you explain the cheese? There was a disciplinary report from her in jail where she got caught with like 80 slices of cheese in her cell. Hey there, Judge. I've been waiting on you. We're all real excited to hear you speak. That tie looks nice. It's cheddar yellow.
Calling State of Florida versus Sarah Boone, 2020 CF 2603, State.
Chief Cacciatore on behalf of the state.
Defense.
William J. for the state.
Defense.
James Owens for Sarah Boone.
Ms. Boone is seated at counsel's table. Ma'am, if you could please raise your right hand, Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Ma'am, can you state your full name and date of birth for the record for us?
Sarah Boone, 10-10-7-7.
No middle name?
We are here for a sentencing. The jury returned a verdict on October 25, finding you, Ms. Boone, guilty of murder in the second degree. We are running a little bit late this afternoon. I apologize for that. I was in court all morning and took the opportunity to review all of your submittals from earlier this morning, Mr. Owens, including the victim or the character statements, the psychological evaluation by Dr. Harper, the motion for downward departure, the motion for new trial, and the state's response to same. Before we proceed with any sentencing in this matter, the court needs to address the defendant's motion for new trial and the state's response to the defendant's motion for new trial. Anything in addition you'd like to argue at this time, Mr. Owens, over and above what is contained in your motion, sir?
No.
State.
No, sir.
All right. After reviewing the motion and the state's response to same, the defendant's motion for a new trial is denied based on the court's review of the record, the court's participation in the trial, and the review of all the evidence, and the court's prior findings and rulings at trial and prior thereto. With that, I believe that we're prepared to proceed with sentencing at this time. The court has reviewed the pre-sentencing investigation prepared by the Department of Corrections. Are there any housekeeping matters that we need to address, Mr. J or Mr. Cacciatore, before we proceed?
Not from the state.
Are there any housekeeping matters from your side of the ledger, sir, that we need to address, Mr. Owens?
Judge, I do have 4 lay witnesses that are going to testify. Dr. Harper here to testify. Of course, my client's going to testify. But one of the 4 lay witnesses wants to appear by Zoom. She lives up in Minnesota. I don't know if that's allowed.
We don't have an objection to that. One of our witnesses will be providing an impact statement, would also like to appear, of course, virtual link as well.
Okay, so stipulated. If you need it, just let Anita know, and I could have her email it to you right now, the link.
We do have the link. She's waiting to get on, I guess.
Who might it be, sir? Several people.
It should be Lana Albert.
She is here, sir. She's in the, she's viewing, her camera's off and she's, microphone is muted, but she's in the lobby.
Okay.
All right, with that, State, you may proceed.
Your Honor, at this time, we would like to take an impact statement from, I believe, Anna Torres, who will be appearing virtually.
Wow.
I see several guests, but I do not see a Anna Torres in the virtual lobby, sir.
Well, I think while maybe she's having some issues logging on, we have also.
Rhino Girl, thank you for the 10
We
gifted
can proceed with those
memberships.
first, sir.
We would call Lana Torres.
Please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Ma'am, good afternoon. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
Blanca Torres.
Okay. Ma'am, you can go ahead.
I just want to tell Sarah Boone that I don't hate her for what she did. And I always remember that evening when that lady came into my door and she knocked at the door. And she asked for my name. I said, I tell her my name. And then she said, can I come in? I said, okay, yes. And she told me to sit down. I never think that was gonna be my son. And then she said my son was dead. Since that day, I can't sleep. It's hard for me to remember that moment. My son is not here no more. She don't only kill my son, she killed a father, a brother, an uncle. It's been hard. I'm a family because all the brothers, they will always work together. But now it's like something real. Love is missing. Sometimes when I look out the window, I'm waiting for him to come and say, Mom, I love you.
Wow.
She was always there. She called me. I missed us, Mommy. The last time that I talked to him was at 12 o'clock in January, New Year. He came to my bed and said, Mom. He woke me up and I said, Mom, I love you. Happy New Year. Since I don't see him no more. You know, my son, I love him. And I miss him a lot. My family miss him a lot too. But I don't hear. But you know what? I was blessed. She ain't gonna be blessed like me because I have my son. I raise him. I have his children, my granddaughter, my grandson, and she don't gonna be able to have that. And I did. I raised him.
She's just
It wasn't
emotionless,
perfect,
sitting there with
but a very
no
good
emotion,
son.
no care.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. State anything further from this witness? Defense?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Dang.
You may call your next victim impact statement.
Thank you, BC girl.
I do.
Ma'am, could you state and spell your name for the record for us, please?
Victoria Torres. My name is Victoria Torres. George is my brother.
Mm.
Unfortunately, my family has experienced two horrifying tragedies. I just want to make it clear that George deserves justice. As far as my other brother and Sarah deserve to rot in jail. Sarah has caused a lifetime of pain, a lifetime of horrible images, a lifetime of hearing my brother George plead for his life. This is just this moment for all of you. For me and my family, it's forever. Such a simple thing as using a suitcase is so triggering.
Wow. Didn't even think about that.
I try not to close it all the way.
Wow.
I leave at least like 2 or 3 inches for the zipper. And it might sound crazy, but it just helps me. She really has flipped my family's life upside down. I
never even thought about that.
And I just hope that we can truly get justice for my brother. And I just want to tell the team thank you so much for everything they did. Thank you.
Thank you. State anything further?
Mm.
Defense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Your Honor, could we see if Ms. Anna Torres has been able to make it online?
Do not see an Anna Torres in the lobby, sir. I have lots of guests, HHSA, Mr. Beck, Lana Albert, Jason Gunn.
Yeah, I bet so.
Your Honor, is there a cap to the link as to the number of individuals?
Not to my knowledge.
Could we just have just a moment?
Yes.
We'll kick some of Sarah Boone's witnesses out and see if we can get Anna in. How about that? Thank you, Mr. Schwagens, for the $5. JSP for governor. Just governor? Guess it's better than mayor, but I do not think so, right? I don't think she can get that, right? Just life without parole, right? Not the death penalty. JD, I bet so. Those impact statements just added 10 years to the sentence, he says. Yeah, I mean, that was... Oh. Yeah, because she got manslaughter. She didn't get manslaughter. She got second-degree murder. Okay. That was crazy to hear about the suitcase part, just using a suitcase day to day and how that impacts her and triggers her. Definitely going to have to make a video about what Sarah Boone's little experience in prison is likely going to be like. The Florida women's prison. $22 to life is the range. The judge will decide what she will get. It's so crazy. She turned down 15 years. What a doofus. Hello, just came to say hi and see Cheesehead Sarah Booze get put away.
Given the fact that
Yeah.
the victim's daughter is having difficulties with
Is that her, Anna Victoria Torres?
Yes, sir.
Is that it? Is that who it is? All right, ma'am, good afternoon. Can you hear us?
Good afternoon. I can hear you.
Okay, could you please state and
Nice.
spell your name for the record?
My name is Anna Victoria Torres, ANAVICTORIATORRES.
Thank you, ma'am. I understand that you'd like to provide a statement to the court at this time. You may proceed.
Okay.
Thank you, Darlene. And Mia.
Okay. So I'll be speaking for myself and my two siblings. The murder of our father has impacted us on so many levels and in different ways. I myself, for the first year, would wake up screaming every morning or night, wishing I was having a nightmare, only to wake up to remember all over again that my father is gone and I'll never be able to hear him say he loves me ever again. To know my siblings have been affected in such a way that they are now different. They have had a piece of their heart ripped away from them, all while her son gets to hear his mother's voice and see her alive is pathetic. Because of you, Sarah, my sister is heartbroken. Because of you, Sarah, my brother is left wondering when he will ever see his father again. The loss of my father has left me with chronic depression and anxiety. Seeing any moments of fatherly love or kindness being shown between others in real life or even on TV leaves me in complete shambles. Seeking therapy was a must in order to navigate through my workday without a random breakdown. Thoughts of my father's demise still enter my mind ever so often. I'm left either angry, sad, or sick to my stomach to think of how his final moments were. George Torres, my incredible father. Not only was he my father, but my best friend. My personal comic provided me with wisdom and knowledge, creative and loving dad, an older brother, an uncle, a cousin, a friend, a son, and above all, our father. He was human and deserved to be treated as such. My father, George Torres, was one of a kind, an absolute gem. Unfortunately, his light was dimmed on earth by evilness, but with us, we will forever make his name live on. Especially Sarah, I pray that you see his face when you see him at night. That is it.
Thank you. Anything further, State?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further of this witness?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, ma'am. State,
Thank you.
Man,
anything further?
No other impact statements, Your Honor.
look at Sarah.
Thank you. Any other witnesses or evidence at this point in time, State?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Owens, you may proceed, sir.
Ms. Diane Smith,
Sarah looks like a wet dandelion.
Judge, what do you want?
I have no issue with her being at the podium. If you want to move about the well to conduct your examination, that's fine, counselor. Ma'am, come on up. Coming up to this podium right here, ma'am, if you could raise your right hand, Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in.
solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Ma'am, could you state and spell your name for the record for us, please?
Diane Smith, Diane Smith.
Okay, thank you very much. Counselor, you may inquire.
And Ms. Smith, tell the court a little bit about you.
I was a chaplain at the 33rd Street Jail for 30 years.
And have you been a chaplain at the jail here in Orange County?
Yes, Orange County Jail
Is that the same
for
jail
30
you're
years.
referring to? And during that period of time, did you have occasion to meet with Sarah Boone?
I did.
And did she ask for cheese?
Known her 4 years.
And if you could tell the court what you'd like to say.
Okay. Well, I first met Sarah. She came in. We have a Christian dorm, and Sarah enrolled in our Christian program. And she was in my classes for a year. And she was very sincere in her efforts to change her life and to be a better person. And I found her very helpful. She was kind and good to people. She loved to serve. And she helped the new girls that would come in, the younger girls. She would mother them and be very kind. And
Oh,
very
gross.
helpful. And then after she graduated from the program, I was her counselor for the other 3 years. And I always found her, very sincere and, trying to do better. I spoke with many inmates that knew her and was associated with her. And they spoke very highly of her and said that, she was helpful. And
Oh, yeah. Well,
kind
y'all
and
got the
trying to
same
help other
hairstylist,
people.
too.
And I just found her to be, very sincere and trying to be a very good person and change and help people.
Ma'am.
Was the Bible involved at all?
Oh, yes, it was all spiritual. Yes, it was spiritual growth plus character, growth and character, trying to just be a better person in general. She liked to serve other people.
Serve them what?
She would help the girls
Grilled
wash their
cheese?
clothes and show them around and teach. But spiritually, she grew very, very great spiritually.
Hang on, ma'am, just 1 second.
Ma'am?
Hang on just 1 second.
Ma'am, get your
State
butt
any
back up
questions?
there.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank
We're
you,
not
ma'am. I
done with
appreciate
you. All right, now you can go. Sit down.
Christina Pena?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's fine, counselor. Thank you. Ma'am, come on up if you can. Raise your right hand. Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in.
Do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Ma'am, if you could state and spell your name for the record for us.
Christina Pena, Christina Pena.
You may inquire, sir.
How old are you?
31,
And where do you live?
Orlando.
Now, it's my understanding, Ms. Penna, that you were in the county jail with Sarah Boone.
Oh.
Yes.
How long were y'all in the same cell together?
Yes, about,
What kind of
I was
witness
in
is
there for
this?
4 years, but we're together for 3.
And I understand ultimately the charges against you were dismissed. And so you were released on what day?
April 4th this year.
She was always real nice, Judge. She'd give me a biscuit in the morning.
2023. So you've
She's a
been out-
changed woman.
I've been out for like 6 or so months now. Yeah, since April of this year, actually.
We played a lot of Go Fish and dominoes together.
And you said y'all were bunkmates there together for about 3 years. I would assume that y'all got to know each other pretty well.
We did.
And if you could, if you'd like to speak on her behalf to the judge.
Sarah's one of my best friends, my only.
Well, that's a sad existence there, ma'am.
Take your time.
She's helped me a lot. Spiritually and like growing and
She can't even get it out without her insides churning. She knows she's lying.
she's just, she helps everybody. She's always, I don't know, spirit. She helped me a lot and she would come to me. She'd talk to me all the time and pick me up when I was down or if I didn't know something. She just, good.
Wow.
She was a good person to me. She just.
Turn her loose, Judge. I've seen enough. Set her free.
She always helped. She always helped people. She was always helping everybody in the dorm. She even like her artwork. She did
Her artwork.
art.
Cheese
Anybody needed any
sculptures.
help or needed anything, they'd come to her and they'd help. She'd help them. And even if they, did wrong to her, she would still go back and help them and praise with them and
Oh, boy.
pray over them and everything.
My word. What a good woman.
And was she a little bit older than you?
Yeah.
How much older was she?
Quite a bit.
40 in her 40s.
Did you
Thank you, Smashing
think of
Blouse.
her as maybe an aunt or a big sister?
A
What
big
was
sister, yeah. She was like a big sister. A sister I never had. Because I have brothers, so I never, we clicked right away. I don't know. We'd be walking out in the backyard and she just would always try and talk to me, but I'm a quiet person and I don't trust a lot of people. So for me to open up and trust somebody, it's a lot. So.
What were y'all doing in that cell, ma'am?
It's just you and getting
Tell us what
Yes,
really
and
happened.
she helped me a lot with my my case, and I would help her with with hers too. We're both. Justice is not what it is. I don't know how.
Bless you.
Oh, wow,
We both
man.
helped each other out.
My heart is touched. I tell you.
Any questions, State?
Thanks,
Oh, thank you, ma'am. I
Lefty,
appreciate
or
you.
whatever your prison name is. Thanks, Sticks McGee. Bertha. Who is that lady? The leader of the
Yes, sir.
Cheese Doodles prison gang? What the heck was that? She was real nice.
Ma'am, good afternoon. Could you state and spell your name for the record for us?
My name is Mariela Hill, Mariela, last name Hill, Hill.
Thank you. You may proceed, sir.
So briefly tell us a little bit about yourself.
I met Sarah in jail. I spent 3 months in jail. Went through a lot of unfortunate circumstances.
Girl, you know I got you. I'll show up to court for you as soon as I get out.
Orange County Jail.
And when would that have been? Do you recall the dates?
Yes, it was April, from April to June of this year,
Of this year,
2024.
2024.
Boy.
And did you develop a relationship with Sarah Boone over the course of that 3 months?
Yes, yes. We met when I was moved to the B dorm. and
We met in B dorm. Me and Sarah go way back,
to help me out.
all the way to B dorm.
And at that moment, we became really good friends. And she was so helpful, so kind, so respectful.
She showed me how to use a mop.
Not just to me, but to everyone. And I have nothing but good things to say about her.
Who's going to testify next? The spider in the corner of her cell?
How
Every time she cleaned up, she'd never knock my web down. She let me stay. What a kind heart.
State any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms.
No,
Albert.
yeah, no
Appreciate it.
questions. Thank you. Sit down. What's wrong
Ms.
with
Albert,
you?
good afternoon, ma'am. Can you hear me? This
Oh.
is Judge Cranick, and if you
Who's
can, I
this?
would ask you to turn on your camera and unmute yourself at this time, please.
Sir, how do I unmute turn on my camera? I know how to unmute, but I'm not sure how to turn the camera on.
Yeah, you're unmuted. Maybe turn it down a little as well while you're at it.
Sir, I don't know how to work my camera so well. I'm not so
When
good
we-
at
when you
technology.
join the link, there should have been an option for like a pull down.
Who's this
on the
witness,
left-hand side of
Shrek?
the screen for you to open out or turn on a camera. I don't know what device you're appearing on, if it's a cell phone or a laptop.
I'm on my iPod.
It is an iPhone. Should I try to re-enter the room?
Yeah, try to do that. There should be an option for
Yeah,
to pick a
buddy?
camera.
Send us.
And you'll either select the default camera, and hopefully we'll be able to see you at that time.
Okay, let me just give me 1 second.
Oh, yep. Sure, you're going to break this case wide open, buddy. Gosh, who's this cabinet of folks she's got? This is, I actually can't believe this. When they said she's got like 3 witnesses to come up and speak on her behalf, the last thing I expected was Jailhouse Judy, Bertha from B Dorm Bertha, and this loser who can't even work his iPhone. Yeah, I met Sarah at a gas station. She let me cut in front of her. Let her go, Judge.
Did that work? Can you see me?
Your Honor, I'm Sarah's hairstylist. She's had a hard life.
Shoot.
Please take that into
Yeah, it's saying default camera. It's saying front camera. I chose it. It didn't show my face or anything like that.
I'm the piece of lice that lived on Sarah Boone's scalp for 4 months. Let her go, Judge. She created a sturdy foundation for me to live in.
I have no objection to the witness making their statement here.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, Miss Albert, good afternoon. If you could just state and spell your name for the record for us, please.
Certainly. Lana, Lana, Albert, Albert.
Okay. All right, Mr. Owens is going to ask you some questions. And if you could just answer them, ma'am, I would greatly appreciate it. Sir, you can proceed.
Miss Albert, do you have the ability to turn your volume down?
Yes,
No.
I just did. I can't hear you very well when I do that, though.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you, but very, very quietly.
How about now?
Just hang up at this point.
Yes, I can hear you. Am I okay?
Yeah, you sound a lot better. You were too loud earlier.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right, Miss Albert.
This
tell
is a
the court
woman.
a little bit about yourself briefly.
Well, I live in Minnesota. I currently have end-stage renal disease. Before I became disabled, I was a business owner in the Twin Cities here.
All right, and how old are you?
I am 50 years old.
All right, and you're considered disabled?
Yes, I am.
All right. And have you had an occasion since this event to establish a relationship with Sarah Boone?
Yes, I have. We have been friends for the past a little over 11 months.
And how do y'all communicate?
We've communicated a lot of phone calls, lots of tablet back and forth, and a lot of letters as well.
Okay.
I'd say many hours of time spent.
I
with
need
each
to
other.
get my hands on those phone
All right,
calls.
and you want to speak on her behalf here today?
Imagine Sarah Boone phone
I would,
calls.
please.
All right, would you please tell the court what you would like for the court to know?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Your Honor, for the privilege of speaking on behalf of my friend Sarah Boone. I also want to extend my heartfelt condolences to everyone here affected by this terrible tragedy, which has brought us all here and listening in. Many articles and videos and opinions of Sarah have gone out in the airways and on the webs. Opinions that have been formed and commented on so much that it's hard not to give into the temptation to treat people like a comic book or a fictional character.
A comic book.
In the case of my friend Sarah, the words narcissist,
What are we talking about?
Karen,
Spider-Man?
villain, many other things, they roll off the tongue with little regard to the humanity that is dismissed so flippantly. And
She's the Velveeta
under a lot of
villain
circumstances,
from the
I was
comic
one of those
books.
people, as I have a love of true crime, and becoming friends with Sarah has shown me that there's a lot more depth to the people I see on the screen. I'd like to share with the world and with the court about the Sarah Boone that I know. Sarah Boone is a kind, honest, and good person. The Sarah Boone I know is one who loves animals, especially the kind who are damaged. And
Well, she didn't
defenseless.
donate to Mumford's mission.
How many of us would take in and pour love for a hearing impaired and a sight impaired pair of dogs? She's
Oh, the
a
ones that were
natural
dancing
instinct
and
to help
playing
reach
bingo
out
with
and
her?
give of herself. Her time and energy and love, especially to those who are hurting or damaged. You all have seen her fight for her own life and truth here. I tell you this, she fights even harder for those she loves, giving time, attention, and companionship without a single thought for her own gain or what somebody can do for her.
Yeah,
And
imagine.
one huge example is in the matter of our friendship. As I
Dude,
said
they're
before,
so
I have
over
end-stage
this.
renal disease caused by a genetic illness called polycystic kidney disease. As my life has progressed, things I've taken
This is
for
a
granted have
clown
been taken
show
away
with
from
this
me.
guy,
I
this
could not
this
appear in
woman,
court
whoever,
in person
whatever.
because I can no longer walk, as my dialysis treatments have affected the circulation of my legs and
Good
has confined
point.
me to a wheelchair. To say that my life has radically changed is an understatement. Through it all, I have many friends and family I love and cherish. Sarah has distinguished herself differently in this way. In the course of getting to know her, I started sharing the progressing state of my health. It was like lightning had struck her. The moment Sarah had learned the depth of my struggles health-wise, she straight up offered strenuously to donate a kidney to me. I gotta tell you this.
What?
I'm not mad for me showing this, but she had no
Her head's
hesitation, no
shaped like a
concern over
kidney.
personal risk or personal gain. I want to convey to this out and around the world that is merely offering is a good and heroic act. I've had many friends. I've not had one outside of my brother who has offered me a kidney. That is huge. I don't have anything of equal value to give to her. And that's not the actions of a narcissist.
So you're here speaking
She
on.
believes a
She said,
reflex
"If you come
action
talk for me, I'll give you one of my
as a good
organs."
person.
Basically,
After the verdict came in October, we spoke that night. And I hope Sarah doesn't get mad at me again for disclosing this, but out of all
Yeah,
the shock and
you don't want her
seriousness of what happened
kidney.
in the court,
trust me,
the thing
buddy.
that made her emotionally break was that she realized she could no longer be a donor to me. I mean, I was sitting there like, hey, you know, it's going to be okay. But she was so broken up, she couldn't help me. That's a friend. She is not, nor does she come up anywhere remotely close to being a narcissist.
Yeah, well, she ain't on trial for
One more thing
narcissism,
before
buddy.
I go.
She's
Social media has worked to rip the blindfold off of Lady Justice, to take the sword out of her right hand and start assassinating Sarah's character. However, the scales are the balance. As it says in Psalm 85, mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Justice isn't justice without mercy. Our pursuit of righteousness
we
isn't
went through
complete
all
and
this
right without
technical
peace.
difficulty just to hear this doofus.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the honor of speaking for my
She
friend
was going to
Sarah
make
Boone.
me a wig
I
too,
hope
Your
that
Honor.
justice is mixed with mercy here today. Thank you.
State, any questions? Any follow-up, Mr. Owens?
No, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Albert. I appreciate you.
Like to call
Wow.
Dr. Harper. You want her on the stand or
Who, Dr. Doolittle?
I'm okay with her on the stand.
on the stand?
No, she can be right now. Yes, sir. Be right now. Yes, sir.
That's insane. I've never seen a worse lineup of witnesses in my life. Like, you would actually be better off having none of them speak for you.
Doctor, good afternoon. If you could please raise your right hand. Madam Clerk's going to go ahead and swear you in. If you could, doctor, state and spell your name for the record for us, please.
Dr. Julie Harper, Julieharper.
Thank you. Counselor, you may inquire.
And Dr. Harper, we all know we were here a few weeks back for the trial, and your testimony to the judge's judgment's quite a bit about your
I can barely hear.
If you could, I know that you prepared a report, and we have submitted that to the court, which the court has read and taken out of copy. And I don't know if you want to.
Have you missed anything? Oh, no, he hadn't. Yes.
I think that during trial testimony, I reviewed all of the documents, excuse me, and all of the records that were available. They're documented in my report as well. In addition to the forensic clinical interviews that I conducted, I also have had the opportunity to talk to her brother, Philip Paulson, in the interim since the trial, and I included his information in my report as to her family background.
If you could, give the court a synopsis of what you.
That's not on me. That's on Law and Crime. The volume's the same for me. I can barely hear.
So referring to the summary section of my report, I'll keep it a brief, but I'll outline the highlights that I feel like haven't been conveyed before, which is an understanding of Ms. Boone's early family life, in that she is the middle child of her parents' union, and that her parents did not have a happy marriage. They didn't provide an opportunity to have a good role model as to how to have a partnership together. Ms. Boone was born in close proximity to her youngest brother, 11 months apart. And
Oh, that'll do it
my
every
clinical
time.
Experience and training, I would say that disrupted her attachment with her mother, some being close in proximity with her younger brother, whose temperament just seemed to suit a relationship with her mother.
Don't you see? It was her brother's fault.
So ultimately, Ms. Boone.
They were born too close together. Don't you
bonded
get
with
it?
her
It all makes
father,
sense now.
Though he wasn't described by either child as an affectionate person, he was somebody that was there for her at sporting events and more of a primary parent.
She
during
fired
her days.
9 lawyers to get
His
this.
untimely death by heart attack during her high school years was marked by her brother as a turning point for her in how she was acting at home. Her demeanor, her relationship with her mother took a turn for the worse.
Right.
She was not coping well. She was using substances based on what her brother was saying. And it is my opinion that that early lack of foundational relations with her mom and not feeling very secure, the death of her father, destabilized her. That's a period of your life when you're leaving high school, when you should have formed a very solid foundation to go out in the world. And I don't think that that's what she had at that moment.
Yeah, and so 20 years later, she does
She
this.
bonded easily with Mr. Boone, and you can see that there are elements of that early difficulty with her relationships because she took on a parentified role, in my opinion, during that relationship. And therefore, there's a power imbalance in that she was making decisions and not, again, having an equal relationship. I think that led her to a sense of being a need to be right, a need to feel like she is the one that's making good decisions.
A need to win at hide and
have some
seek.
ego support by being in the right all the time with Mr. Boone. And I think that that led to some behaviors that she carried over into her relationship with Mr. Torres, in that she's parentified around him and acting more like a parent-child relationship, being a facilitator of housing and applications for jobs and things like that. So again, there's a power imbalance that I think was very seriously
Right.
misaligned, as her brother and the property manager of their apartment had verified. They saw her being abused,
Hogwash.
physically abused in serious ways, or the effects of the abuse in bruising or calls to them. It is my opinion that she called for help, but when people got tired of her not leaving Mr. Torres, they stopped responding to those calls. And basically, Ms. Boone handled things on her own. And as other people with healthier boundaries probably would have left, she being acting out the pattern of intimate partner violence did not leave. She stayed long past when it would have been smart for others, or others would have said to leave.
Oh, shut up.
The undergirding of that not leaving the relationship is a long-term anxiety problem that became post-traumatic stress disorder. There is an earlier instance of exposure to traumatic stress in that she was the person in the hospital after her father died who found him having students perform CPR on his dead body.
Your Honor,
So that was an early exposure to
she
high
got teased a
traumatic
lot for her
stress. Witnessing
haircut.
that incident, and based on her brother's description, that was something that changed her. When a person is exposed to numerous compounding stressors, their adrenaline system is changed. It alters your body. And things that might be an otherwise neutral situation,
Your body turns to
tend
cheese.
have a cascading adrenaline response to that. And I think that that ultimately for her, as she succumbed to other instances of serious physical abuse from her partner, became post-traumatic stress disorder. I do think that that is a condition that is still existent even while she's in jail. It's something that she needs treatment for.
Yeah, they
Because
already
those
said no
triggers are
retrial. Let's get to the
inundated, meaning
dang.
that she hasn't really had the kind of therapy to address them and reduce her adrenaline and anxiety responses when she thinks of past instances of traumatic events that have happened to her. You can also respond to post-traumatic stress disorder clinically by
Look at her.
using antidepressant therapy.
My hair
And
looks better than
that would be
hers.
something that could assist her ultimately in reducing symptoms if she had counseling and antidepressant therapy.
Now, Dr. Harper, I know you would testify in trial that, in your opinion, she suffered as a combative spouse syndrome that is legally recognized to the floor in the courts of Florida.
That's correct.
And I understand that that is tied to this intimate partner violence, which is maybe the same thing, but there's a complex mental health issue that ties into that. Can you speak on the complexity of that whole?
Sarah's got the same haircut as John Smith from Pocahontas.
Certainly. So intimate partner violence is not a diagnosis. It's a pattern of events that occur between two partners in which the power dynamic is altered by the physical abuse or behaviors that are controlling in nature to the point that
Sarah
someone's
Smith.
safety is threatened. It's common for victims of that
John
to
Boone.
have a complex mental health condition, often including depression, anxiety, and substance abuse problems. And what might be substance abuse to cope with the problem, like numbing oneself, will sometimes result in its own diagnosis. The pattern of intimate partner violence, I think we covered in the trial, but just in summary about that, there are phases in which at first bonding of the two partners might be something positive. They've got something in common, or have
She's killing me,
pleasurable,
man.
time together. And then the
Whoa.
secondary phase of that is when there
Thank you,
is a
Donna
change in
Burrows, for the
dynamic
$100
and
towards a
some
cheese
kind of
basket.
event,
Jeez.
occurs, some instances.
Might
of
take
physical
Ario to the
violence,
Cheesecake
and
Factory
then,
later.
There's a third phase in which it's like a honeymoon phase where they're trying to right the relationship. So in phase one, when they're having something pleasurable, the tone shifts. Phase two, there is some kind of incident. And phase three, there's a honeymoon phase. As that pertains to anxiety, I think that a person who suffers from
I'd rather hear
domestic
another
violence
inmate
never
at this point.
stops experiencing that hypervigilance, waiting for the next instance of violence to occur. So even though they may look happy, they might be experiencing
Thank you again,
something
Donna. I
positive,
appreciate it.
they've not really relaxed because their memory.
Yes,
that
I
that
am going to react to the
will
Wade
occur
Wilson call
again
later.
Is still in their mind. So they haven't fully stopped experiencing intimate partner violence. It's just what phase of the process.
I love how they just pan over to her every once in a while.
It goes into more detail in your report, which I supplied to the court, which is totally.
Nobody wants your stinky kidney.
That's what's been marked. I don't believe it's been filed in the court file. If it has, that's something if it needs to be, it's something we can address. I have reviewed it. It does reflect
Stinky little kidney.
confidential privilege information on the first page. I don't believe it's been filed in the court file unless you did it. Okay.
I know what hair Sarah Boone
It already
has.
has been. All right, appreciate it. Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir.
And Dr. Harper, you're aware that the defense has filed a defense motion for downward departure.
I know what hair. I know what hair. Sarah has the hair of Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. Sarah Lannister.
That she requires specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is not related to substance use or addiction, although you agree that she does suffer from alcohol use.
Trump.
So she has an underlying mental health disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I additionally diagnosed her with alcohol use disorder, which is separate.
But you agree she does require specialized treatment for a mental disorder that's not related to the substance use or addiction?
That's correct.
And you agree that she's in medical treatment?
Yes.
And you would agree that she acted under extreme duress in this unique homicide case?
Yes.
And you would agree that the uniqueness of the circumstances. the
Cheese
facts,
slayer.
and the case that the offense was committed in an unsophisticated manner.
Yes.
And it was isolated.
Game
That's
of
my understanding
provolones.
as well, but-
Other than she had the charge where both of them were charged at one time. I think she had the strangulation allegation, the felony case that was ultimately dismissed when both of them were arrested.
She had a prior felony case. Facts are different, of course, in this particular case.
Hey, Bean.
Dr. Harper, I believe that's all the questions I've got, unless you would like to say if I missed anything, of course.
Let's hear from Sarah.
If not, then we'll report.
Any questions?
Yes, may she take a stand so I can be quoted?
Yes, that's fine. You may inquire, sir.
In pages 1 and 2 of your report, you go through the sources of your information, correct? And that would include 8 interviews that you had with her from the course of August of 2020 through September of 2024, correct?
Oh, I just want to hear if she says something
There were
about
9
cheese.
interviews, but 8 dates of service are listed.
You did the
Or
Miller
kidneys.
Forensic Assessment of Symptoms Test, or MFAST.
That's right.
Inventory of Legal Knowledge, ILK.
That's right.
Clinician Administered PTSD Scale 5 examination. You consulted with her attorney.
Yes.
Videotaped interviews from this court case number of Sarah Boone, interview part 1 and 2, Abraham Moreno interview, Brandon Motes interview, Brian Boone interview, Juan Torres interview, and Melissa Sexton interview, correct?
Yes.
You reviewed the autopsy photos. You reviewed some of the digital forensic exhibits, including the Apple iPhone XS and a Samsung SMJ 327 T1 photographs from those 2 devices. You reviewed Bates stamped discovery
Knick-knack.
pages 1 through 413.
Yeah, exactly.
Crime scene photos or photos of scene taken
Jackie.
on June 19th.
Thank you, Jackie.
2020. Aspire Health records.
Yes.
And who do those pertain to?
Aspire Health records are for Sarah Boone.
Florida Hospital Medical Group records?
Yes.
And who do those records pertain to?
That is also for Sarah Boone.
And Aspire, is that a mental health treatment facility?
It has an emergency department record, but that would be the place where she was detained under the Baker Act.
And it is routine and common in the practice of forensic
I don't
psychology
know.
or psychiatry to
Maybe.
rely on the records of other such practitioners.
As a source of information.
Thank you,
sure.
Rebecca. Thank you,
The
Melissa.
deposition of Dr. Tanya Warner. Reviewed the trial testimony of Sarah Boone, Brian Boone, Dr. Michael Brannon, Dr. Tanya Werner, correct? The jury verdict form dated 10/25/24.
Yes.
Witness list notice of filing amended
Yes.
on this case. Records of Jorge Torres or George Torres involving case numbers 2019 MM 5114, a 911 call and PDF.
Thank you, Jules.
Case 2019 MM 7193, case 2019 MM 7193, Torres Public Records. Case 2019 MM 7193, Torres Photos. Central Florida Primary Care Records, Advent Health Orlando Medical Records.
There's always one.
And those latter records that I just mentioned, those for Mr. Torres and not Ms. Boone, correct?
That's right.
Then
Really?
reviewed Sarah Boone.
That's
written
awesome.
Correspondence, Sarah's listing of domestic violence incidents, Sarah's writings regarding missing days of work, the Baker Act, and a 74-page life story.
That's right.
And then case 2018 CF 10573, public records and photos.
Yes.
And a telephone interview with Melissa Sexton, the property manager, which you conducted on October 1st, 2024.
Yes.
And a telephonic interview with Philip Paulson, the defendant's brother.
I gotta use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Where has Ms. Boone been housed and living since February of 2020?
Orange County.
And does the Orange County Jail provide mental health services to inmates?
It does.
And you already testified you would routinely, as a forensic psychologist, review records kept of a psychological or psychiatric treatment of a patient or a client, correct?
Yes.
In this particular case, have you reviewed any mental health records generated by the Orange County Jail for Ms. Boone?
No, I have not had the opportunity to do that.
So for the last 58 months or so, if she was being seen by the mental health treatment staff at the jail, you have not reviewed those records? By a psychiatrist, are you aware or not?
If the person's level of mental health intervention deems them
Diagnosis or lack of diagnosis that they've had during the course of the last 58 months, you are unaware of because you did not review the records.
That's right.
I don't have any other questions.
Any redirect examination?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you.
One question. Dr. Harper, I didn't ask you to review those records, did I?
No.
Thank you.
Judge, I believe you said it at the very beginning that I had submitted several letters on behalf of
What? How?
Ms. Boone.
Are you
and
kidding me?
She didn't hear that, but
As soon as I step away, something goes wrong with my
Yes, ma'am.
computer.
and you don't actually
on.
read those letters into the record, but you did read them.
I have reviewed them. They're in my binder here. How many do I have? Yes. Give me a second. I can tell you. I have 6 handwritten letters. First one is 1 page. Second one is 2 pages. Third one is 1 page. Fourth one is 2 pages. Fifth one is 2 pages. Sixth one is 2 pages. I have a typed letter from Diane Smith, the assistant chaplain. I have another typed letter from a Nicole Ray, a typed letter from a Stephanie L, a typed letter from Philip Paulson, a email from Lana Albert, 2 pages in length, and a 2-page email from a Danielle Parsons.
Did you get one from Chuck E. Cheese?
Judge, I would like to call Sarah Boone.
You may proceed.
Uh-oh.
Take this.
Yes, please.
Oh, Lord. Tripper, Sheriff. Tripper. Your stupid little shoes.
Ms. Boone, you can be seated. You've been previously sworn. You may inquire, sir.
For the record, just state your name again.
What's happening?
Sarah Boone.
Now, this is unlike a trial, so you're allowed to speak in a narrative form, as well as I understand you have taken some notes or written a letter that you want to read from, and then you want to speak to the court after that.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and get started?
This is actually an edited version of
Gosh. Toofus. An edited ma'am.
I had a lot to say. I've had a lot of time to think about things, and I didn't really know how to put it on paper. And I didn't know how much I could say or how little I should say. So what I have here is, like I said, an edited version. But I would like to read the more important parts that I feel that everyone should know that wasn't said in my actual trial. And on top of what I have on paper, I have, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I wanted to read this, and then if I may, I would like to address everyone in my apology on top of my statement.
Okay.
You may proceed, ma'am.
Kintu Sukuroi is a kind of Japanese ceramic style which means to repair with gold. In this tradition, when a ceramic piece breaks, an artisan will fuse the pieces back together again using liquid gold or gold dust lacquer. So rather than being covered up, the breaks become more obvious and a brilliant new piece of art emerges from the brokenness. It embraces flaws, weakness, and imperfections, and also teaches the essence of resilience. Every crack in a ceramic piece is a part of its history, and each piece becomes more beautiful because it has been broken. This is the wisdom of Kintu Sukuroi. In my wisdom and with all of my repairs, then, now, and ongoing, God is, has been, and will always be my artisan. All of my gold is forgiveness. This has held me together, made me shine brighter, and overcome the damage caused by George Torres, the Torres family, the justice system, Orange County Corrections Department, social media, scoundrel detectives, infamy, defamation, ongoing constitutional rights violations, second-degree murder, forced into being pro se.
Give her life.
Just as gold is very precious, forgiveness is invaluable. Forgiveness is not an attempt to change or forget who, what, or how you've lived through to be so gold, but an act of grace, humility, and considerable self-compassion to be set free from sorrow.
Chintuk Sukuro would be pissed.
Denies your brilliance and adds even greater grief and deeper heartache. Irreparable cracks on top of the already that no one deserves, no matter the pain or disappointment, untruths or injustice. It doesn't matter, as the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become more outstanding and more extraordinary. Above all, when you let go of blame, misunderstandings, excuses, give up your anger and cease from resentment, this is forgiven. And when you forgive, you heal. And when you heal, you move forward.
The damage from George and his family?
My
Are you
goal
kidding
begins
me?
with George Torres, and every time he slapped me, kicked, punched, spit on, raped, stabbed, choked, laughed at, pushed, pulled, dragged, whipped, tripped, stole from, lied, terrorized, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded, made me cry. Every time he tried to end me, defeat, or destroy. I forgive George for beating me senseless, For trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day. For ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together. For wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in the walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over. For breaking or removing the locks from all of the doors and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on
This
his
is
bed.
crazy.
For terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond or scrape their remains off of the pavement, for kicking them off of the bed and throwing across the room because they were trying to protect me.
Chen Sukuro would
Threatening to make me
not
unrecognizable to my
be
son
okay
by
with
breaking
this.
all of the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George beating me, like all of the times their father beat their mother. For all of the drunken rages and fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped.
Are you kidding me?
For drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. For making me experience what it is to be sodomized. Threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece. For threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job. For holding me hostage on weekends my son was supposed to come over by keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or try to leave. For stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from being arrested. For destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called.
Oh my
For
gosh.
me experiencing ever being arrested.
Take this lady's
without him
papers
today in
away.
prison. For beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe. For having me experience what it means to see stars, like in the cartoons, where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, and many times.
Well,
For dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night just to sit
by your
next to me.
hair.
For taking my car driving drunk with my debit card to buy more alcohol while I slept, even after I kindly explained the importance of my car to take my son to school foremost,
She's
me
gone.
work, and he to his batterers intervention classes
She's
and probation
gone.
officer meetings, where I would be forced to sit for hours in the parking lot waiting for him. For causing me so much trauma and pain, mentally, physically, emotionally, I had to be hospitalized more than once. For destroying my reputation and integrity, for my M for murderer scarlet letter, not letting me feel safe to live, talk to other people, spend time with my son, have a job, friendships, simply go to the bathroom with the door closed, or go to sleep soundly or comfortably.
This is crazy.
I forgive George for lying, for him trying in so many ways, so many times, to end me with his terrifying love. I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was capable of and has done in the past, his history of violence and where he learned it, then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help.
Wow.
All of his siblings, including Farrell Torres, who is now on his way to prison for stabbing the mother of their baby in the side of her head. For everyone who knew what George was doing to me, sometimes how and when, but allowed and enabled. I forgive them for caring too late. I hope they all ask themselves while quiet and comfortable in bed at night the uneasy question, what could I have done to stop this from happening to both of them? And after all the times Sarah tried to, by asking for help from all of us and so many times. Another great contributor of my goals.
Boy, I can't wait to hear what this judge
insensitivity,
has to say.
deception, obvious exploitation, and advantageous gain from my criminal case as a whole, and for sentencing me by anticipation as a result of ignorance and hate, conjured and fabricated by the organized crime that is social media, which condemned me in the court of global public opinion since the beginning. My family law case is the new prey waiting to be picked apart and pillaged from me being made infamous by social media in my criminal case. It simply seems I cannot forgive and be forgiven and move forward. Social media has made me a pariah. It has caused great oppression and undeniable disadvantages, especially by broadcasting and manipulating my cases online. In my criminal case, as a result, my opportunities to be given a fair, proper, and uninfluenced, successful conclusion was heavily depleted and poisoned. I forgive them. Also, all of the media tycoons for not having a life of their own, trying so desperately to make themselves seem so right by making me appear so wrong. Forgiveness
Who,
proclaimed
me?
judgment, ridiculous theatrics, lies, making and taking blood money from my and others' misfortunes, accidents, and catastrophes. It's all over their hands and their keyboards. And even after all that's been said and
My
done,
keyboard?
theorized, hypothesized, scrutinized, and blasphemed,
There's cheese all
in
over my keyboard.
case, still no one knows me.
That's what one's for me.
In the end, I forgive myself for not choosing my life sooner, for not being more brave, vigilant, bolder, and outspoken, stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, for being hopeless, desperate,
Thank you, Sarah.
simple-minded, weak, and inexperienced. I forgive myself for not realizing I was enduring a life of domestic violence and that the vicious cycle of never ends. I had nothing to compare to. I've never been hit by a man ever before in my life. I was raised hitting a woman was wrong and should never happen. No excuse. I forgive myself for not escaping permanently, for not fighting back sooner to save myself, my son, my dogs, home, and car. Having 20/20 hindsight thinking of everything I could have done differently or better to avoid the outcome. I think about this every day since. Also, of all
Oh
the good
my
days we had
goodness.
together, for him at least, while I was constantly in hyperdrive, high alert, and paranoid, making sure I did everything right all the time.
Hyperdrive.
If not, the great possibility I would be ended as George threatened me with so many times before. I forgive myself for falling in love with a monster, and no matter
Oh
how
my
grotesque
Lord.
he may become, I still loved him, hoped, and forgave. I tried breaking the spell so he wouldn't be a monster anymore. I saw who he was inside. George made me then, now, and always love him for all of his cracks also. We made each other our
Oh,
own
ma'am.
brilliant pieces of art from the cracks and repairs. Unfortunately, not all cracks can be. In all of my forgiveness, George is my greatest lesson and will forever be a part of me. I think of him every day and still speak to him when alone on the rec yard. I ask his forgiveness and that he looks for me at the gates of heaven so I can tell him how sorry I am, endlessly, and that I never stopped loving him. In all of it and still. When I first came to jail, I put my mat under my bed and cried all day and all night for months, only falling asleep from being so exhausted with grief. I wrote him letters. I wrote his family and his daughters, apologizing for asking for their forgiveness. But due to fear that my life or sons would be jeopardized, I did not send. I am sorry. I cannot begin to fathom any of their grief and sadness. Please forgive me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Almost everything reminds me of him. Seeing my stab wound, especially it's every day, especially. It truly reminds me that all I really did live through. George haunts me. He is everywhere. I believe because I do still love him, think of him, and miss his laugh the most. In my heart, I know he is with me and understands that this tragedy was not intentional. I hope everyone can, his family foremost. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please wholeheartedly know that, and always, I would never. Forgive me, George. Forgive me, Torres family. Forgive me, Judge Cranett.
Yeah, I'm
To the
sure they're
entire
all ready
family,
to
please
forgive you now
me.
after all that crap.
I graciously and humbly ask for consideration, for forgiveness to be extended instead of judgment, for reconciliation and restoration for all of us to move forward.
Yeah, well,
My apology is profuse and ceaseless.
Well,
Allow me
it's
please
ceaseless,
to brush
all right.
off the muck, wipe the blood off of my face, and fix the cuts in my skin. I ask for understanding in what really happened and for how long. For second chances, repentance, and redemption.
She
to
thinks she's
advocate for all domestic
Socrates
violence
over here.
survivors, to help them overcome, heal, and still hope, always. To make their voices heard, to confidently walk with all of their scars on the outside and the inside. To help them not ever become a casualty of domestic violence as so many others. To stop the abuse and maltreatment before it's too late. There is always hope, and you can survive. In my soft-spoken conclusion, I ask this.
A soft-spoken.
Would I be the darling mother, celebrated woman of the year,
No.
if it were I who died? How many daughters, mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers, nieces, and friends have been because they did? I am a survivor. Learn to do good, seek justice, rebuke oppressors, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Isaiah 117, all-encompassing, protect the abused.
Ms. Boone, is that the end of your written statement?
Yes.
Good.
Gathering your thoughts, did you want to make an oral statement?
No.
I do.
Would you do that now?
Yes, please.
What?
My statement, my verbal statement is primarily to the Torres family, to the judge, to his daughters. I know you all know who I really am and that I did care for George and that I do still love George. I know you know that we had very many good days. And I take offense to the statement of being said that this is just for a moment. Right now with me here in the courtroom in front of you all, this is just for a moment. But the moments before that, in order for me to be here, is endless. It's everlasting. The scars that I have on the inside, my outside scars have healed except for my stab wound. But this has changed me as a person to see things differently and to understand things differently and to not be weak and just try to protect yourself and forever, regardless of the time that I may receive from today. I forever will have this experience. I forever will have George Torres with me in my heart, in my mind, my body, and my soul. As he and I used to say that we were one soul split into two bodies. This is not just for a moment. It may be for everyone in this courtroom, but
Well-
when I leave, this is forever. When you all leave, that this is forever.
Oh, your
This is
sentence will be
forever
forever.
for everyone
Forever.
here and those who it matters to most. I am one of those who will experience this forever. I'm sorry. Words do not define my shame, and I don't know what else it is that I can say.
Well, nothing.
and
That's fine.
Convey to the Torres family how this happened. The ifs and whys and how really don't matter. It happened, and I'm sorry. Words cannot describe.
Okay, well then quit
and I
trying.
hope that everyone can forgive me,
No.
the Torres family most of all, and his daughters, because I know what he meant to them. And I don't think that anybody ever understood what he meant to me and I to him. And I ask for forgiveness.
Ms. Boone, I have just one or two questions, if you don't mind.
Who is that?
And you can speak on it if you want or not. But this is a unique case, and one of the reasons it's so unique is that you were in jail for 4.5 years prior to your trial. And I understand that when you were brought up as a child, that you did
Oh my Lord.
have some spirituality in your family, some church, some religion.
Always.
But I understand that you got away from that. Did you have a chance during the 4.5 years to look back at your spirituality?
Absolutely. You
Well,
know,
that's where it usually happens.
everyone supposes that this is one of the worst experiences of my life, and it's actually been one of my greatest.
Oh, well, then we'll let you stay there forever.
If I were not beaten to death, I was going to work myself to death on the outside, and I never had time to get back into my Bible and to pray and to be with the Lord. And I, being here incarcerated, have had time, of course, to get closer to God, to reacquaint myself to Him and realize what it's all about. It's this is all temporary. And when I say temporary, I don't mean by being set free in jail or from prison or wherever else. It means being set free and temporary, meaning that you work for something higher, you work for God, that you strive for your crown to be placed upon your head by Jesus Christ by being said, "You have done well, my good and faithful servant." I've always tried to be a good and faithful servant. I was just a servant as opposed to doing all that I can when my family were alive and I was going through everything up to this point.
Ma'am, you were drinking and playing hide and seek.
I've become so much more closer to the Lord, and it's made me such a better person. And I hope that I am an example going forward of the Lord's light and can draw many people to me because of it.
Any follow-up, State?
No, I assumed that was the final word.
Thank you.
There you go.
She can return back to council's table. Anything else from your side of the ledger, Mr. Owens?
Get your little
No more
turkey
witnesses,
neck
so
off
just-
that
just
stage.
hold on. Okay. Anything
What's
else
wrong
for
with
rebuttal, or
you?
Just proceed to argument, State.
Sit
Okay.
down.
Once Ms. Boo's seated, you can proceed with your argument.
He just called her
Either
Miss
Mr. J or
Booze.
Mr. Cacciatore.
He just called her Miss Booze.
You may proceed, sir.
Your Honor, I'm going to start my argument by what I anticipate Mr. Owens will bring up in his presentation regarding the plea offer in this case. That she was offered the resolution in this case of 15 years in the Department of Corrections.
That's gotta hurt.
I think it's important, though, that the entire circumstance of that plea offer is put forward. And
You're not getting
there's
that
something
back.
very critical to that. It's not just 15 years in the Department of Corrections.
Right.
It's 15 years in the Department of Corrections, but it's predicated on something. And the consideration that it's predicated on is the defendant coming to court and accepting responsibility
Right.
for her actions. For her coming to court and saying, I am responsible for George Torres's death,
Yeah.
and I accept the punishment that comes with it. That consideration was never given in this case. And because that consideration was never given in this case, the offer of 15 years in no way represents what this case is worth, or what George Torres's life is worth. That is an offer predicated on a particular circumstance, a circumstance of a first-time defendant accepting responsibility and giving every benefit of the doubt and coming to court and saying that they are ready to be punished. Those conditions were never met. So then we turn to this case, and we turn to this crime, and we turn to the actions of the defendant of taking the law into her own hands and murdering George Torres. She has never shown remorse for that. She didn't show remorse for that here today. She again painted herself as the victim. She's the victim of George Torres.
She ran her cheese hole.
Evil deeds and mistreatments
Michael Myers hair.
he perpetrated upon her. She's the victim of George Torres's family. She's the victim of police. She's the victim of social media. It's all about Sarah Boone. Everything's about Sarah Boone, about how she is the victim. Sarah Boone sentenced every one of George Torres's loved ones to a life sentence. Just like she sentenced George Torres when he was in that suitcase. George Torres lived out his last nightmarish circumstance in that suitcase, begging to be let out for several minutes, which undercuts any argument that this was somehow unsophisticated. There was ample time and opportunity over and over for her to do something different, but she went forward with taking the law into her own hands and ensuring that George Torres was never getting out of there, while she went up to bed and went to sleep for hours on end. She can't say that she was in duress for the same reason. She was in such duress of George Torres that she goes upstairs
Later
and goes to
tonight.
sleep for 11 hours. Your Honor, there's been nothing from the testimony of Dr. Harper either that establishes
Thanks, y'all.
any type of diagnosis that would give this court a basis to downward depart. Dr. Harper has put blinders on to the fact that she has been incarcerated for 58 months. 58 months with the opportunity to receive mental health treatment, and the expert witness is absolutely incurious about what any of those records or diagnosis or anything that would have been there would have said. There is no valid basis for a downward departure in this case. She deserves a life sentence. Thank you.
Mr. Owens, response?
Man.
Just credit. First off, I want to thank you for taking the time to hear our side, hear the witnesses, and review the letters on Sarah Boone's behalf. We've all been here for this trial. We've all been here for other trials. We've all got some age on us. We've all got some life experience on us. And
What?
This is a unique case.
Uh,
This was a unique homicide. It was a unique death. And
a unique
as we
homicide.
all know, a lot of these cases are not black and white. They're shades of gray.
Shades of orange and yellow.
And these crimes don't occur in a vacuum. That there's generally a history, especially involving a domestic couple, a history that comes into play that must be explored. And a lot of what Sarah Boone testified to here today probably happened behind closed doors. And we all know that many times we do not know what happens behind closed doors between a man and a woman in their home, unless there is some reason for the neighbors or law enforcement or somebody else to get involved. And that happened in this case. And so gradually over time, as this event occurred, there was an investigation, and it was learned that there was a history of domestic violence involving these two parties. And what we learned was that physically there was violence, and there were photographs to establish that, as were introduced in the trial.
Yeah.
And there was testimony from experts, not only the defense expert, Dr. Harper, that Sarah Boone was the victim, and she was a victim of intimate partner violence, but coupled with the fact that the state's expert testified on the stand at the trial that Sarah Boone was a victim of intimate partner violence, that she suffered from this domestic or this battered spouse syndrome as the hands of George Torres.
Here's Doofus
There's
McGee.
two sides to it. And in a domestic violence situation like that, 95% of the women get out of that relationship. When violence starts to occur, they've either been raised a certain way,
Yeah,
they have a
exactly.
certain self-esteem about themselves where they refuse to put up with it, knowing that it's wrong, knowing that they can do better. But there is a small percentage
Thank you,
throughout
Cal
the
Kai.
country that for whatever reason, mental health issues, addiction issues, whatever it is, it's complex. Financial reasons, children are involved, whatever. If you do any studying on it, there are circumstances where there is a group of women, predominantly women, it can happen to men, but majority of the time it's a woman that gets caught in this cycle of what we term as intimate partner violence. And court heard the testimony about the cycle that occurs. It's over a period of time and it repeats itself and you go through these phases. A lot of times the victim's not a great historian at trying to articulate it. She tried to do it here today. And I think on Sarah Boone's behalf, she is a unique individual. She's got the personality that she's got. I don't know. You heard from Dr. Harper that a lot of that was formulated based on the way her mother did not bond with her. The way that
Yeah, I
her
don't think
father
that's
was the
that
way he was,
unique, buddy.
the
Sorry.
fact that she lost several relatives.
I think a lot of people lose relatives.
And the trauma that can result. We heard from Dr. Harper that she did suffer from post-traumatic stress as it relates to that trauma in early childhood, and then again as it relates to the events that occurred between Mr. Torres and her. So it's complicated, Judge.
Her hair is.
It's complicated.
I told you she looks like a
The jury
founding
has spoken.
father.
Sarah Boone was entitled under Florida law to present that defense, and she did. That testimony was allowed to be presented. She was allowed to testify. But the jury spoke. And so here we are today with you in a position to decide what is justice for Sarah Boone. And I don't know you that much other than our time together, but
Buddy.
From what I know you try to do the right thing. And that's what we're asking the court to do. To have some discernment, to have some understanding of the unique situation that Sarah Boone found herself in. And quite frankly, Judge, this all didn't occur behind closed doors. A lot of this was in the public eye. Mr. Torres had, I believe, 3 criminal cases before the courts of this county in which Sarah Boone was a victim. Mr. Torres was the accused. Those cases were dismissed. We know from the history of this domestic violence field that that's normal, that Sarah Boone every time either tried to bond him out or tried to get the case dismissed. At some point, somebody has to stop. Somebody has to say, wait, what's going on here? This keeps repeating. It's going to get worse. Something's going to happen. The system failed, Sarah Boone.
Boone
I ask you
Flair.
to consider that.
Consider this.
Circumstances
Boone Flair.
surrounding that failure and what led us here today.
Thank you, Diana. I tell you, when she hears that sentence, it's going to make her go, woo.
I've asked the court to consider a downward departure. I believe you've gotten a copy of the score sheet.
She ain't Ric Flair. She's Rick Hair.
Not since before trial. Is the score sheet stipulated to?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, you may approach.
She's got that He-Man haircut.
Yes, sir.
Judge, I was provided that here today, and I believe, I can't remember the total number of months that it involves, but divided by 12, I think it's 20 months.
Thank you, Deborah.
20.6 is the low end of the guidelines or something about.
It's 246.0 months based on the score sheet.
I did the calculation, but I believe that the low end is 20 years, 20.6 years state prison, I believe is the low end.
20.5. Yes, sir.
And as the court knows, I believe it's on page 3, there are some aggravators that the court can consider in opposing the sentence, and then there are a list of mitigators that the court
Well,
can
you're aggravating me.
consider in downward departing, meaning going lesser than the low end of the guidelines. And in the defendant's motion for downward departure, we mentioned, and I had Dr. Harper testify about 2 or 3 of the grounds, and the court needs to only find one to go below the guidelines. The capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminal nature of her actions and to conform said actions to the requirements of the law were substantially impaired. Judge, I don't have to reiterate the facts and circumstances surrounding this.
Then
event.
don't.
You were here, you heard the testimony, you heard
Jeez.
the circumstances surrounding what happened and how it happened. I would ask that you consider that.
Her ears are melting, it looks like.
2D, the defendant requires specialized treatment for a mental disorder that is not related to substance abuse or addiction and is amenable to treatment. I think it's fair to say here that we know that Sarah suffers from some mental health issues, objective mental health issues that have been opined by Dr. Harper and Dr. Werner.
She's melting.
And you heard Dr. Harper testify about the borderline post-traumatic stress disorder that she suffers from as it relates to this event.
Yes,
as
we
it
heard.
relates to her trauma that occurred in childhood. I think we heard from Dr. Werner. Dr. Werner testified that she suffered from the alcohol abuse disorder, as did Dr. Harper, but Dr. Werner also mentioned that she was not sure about the anxiety disorder, whether it occurred prior to or because she was in the jail for the 4.5 years. However, she does require specialized treatment for the mental disorder, and she is amenable for treatment. And then third, the defendant acted
Same
under
haircut.
extreme duress.
Same haircut.
I think based on Sarah Boone's mindset.
actually the
she
same
testified
haircut.
to her today, and then you heard from the experts at the trial that when you get that anxious about what happens, Sarah testified about they would have good days where there would be no drinking or very little drinking, and then there would be other days where there was heavy drinking, and generally when George Torres got highly intoxicated is when potentially
Mike
things
Boone.
could get violent, and that she was constantly
Michael Boone.
anxious about each day that she was with him. She loved him.
The outfit is pretty close. You're
Like
right.
that, where you
Didn't think
you
about
love
that.
someone that can't leave him. For whatever reason, George Torres couldn't leave Sarah Boone, and Sarah Boone couldn't leave George Torres, and it was a vicious cycle.
Oh,
But
thank you, Julie.
We believe that she qualifies under that it was under extreme duress at the time of this event. And lastly, the defense was committed in an unsophisticated manner, which was an isolated incident. Now, isolated, we know, Judge, that she had one prior event in which both of them were arrested. You heard her testimony that it was during an event. They ended up downstairs next to the washer and dryer, and she was on the bottom, and she had used her hands to try to get him off, and she had tried to choke him, and there were some marks on him. And she was arrested for felony domestic violence battery, as well as he was arrested. I think a few days later, both of those charges were dismissed against either party. But she has no criminal conviction record. She has never been convicted of a crime other than that event. Now,
Jamie,
I
thank
think
you for
that
the
can be
membership.
distinguished. So we believe that it was an unsophisticated manner. Obviously, the uniqueness of this event is unsophisticated.
Yeah, she's already
Anybody that would
guilty,
calculate
bruh.
that they were going to murder somebody by putting them in a suitcase and let them spend the night,
Exactly.
and the next morning, not try to dispose of the body, not try to put the suitcase in a car and go dump the body, not try to dispose of the bat do something? She did nothing. No attempts to tamper with evidence. No attempts after the fact.
She was a very polite murderer, sir.
Whatsoever. No attempts to delete the videos from her phone. Here's my phone. Voluntarily given that information. I think that goes to the unsophisticated manner of unintentional death that occurred. I remember the first time.
Oh, gosh.
First time I saw the suitcase video.
How about you remember the first time you
And I know
shut your
people have
mouth?
different opinions.
We'd like to hear from Judge Kranick.
Tony Henderson, my colleague, had a different opinion when he saw it. But I remember the first time I saw the video and I heard what she was saying to him. When he was saying, hey, Sarah, let me out. I can't breathe. Or worse to that effect. And the way that she was talking to him and the statements that she gave him, in my mind, what has he done to her? What has he done to her? Any loved one you see.
Let me tell you what you've done to me, sir. My kidney is dying just listening to you.
But what has he done to her? And I think it's telling about what she'd endured.
They're so over this crap,
not a clear
and I
picture.
don't blame them.
It's not black and white. There is some gray. And it's up to you to decide what's appropriate.
Well, we're trying to if you'll shut up.
Juries to see.
Gosh.
But I would ask you to temper whatever justice that you think is appropriate with some mercy. And consider the fact that the state was willing to offer 15 years on a manslaughter.
And she
Unless
didn't
you
take
made
it.
defense, based on the facts and circumstances that they were aware of prior to this trial.
Her hair's turning green.
Thank you. Any rebuttal by the state?
Okay.
He's had the opportunity to review the evidence and testimony that was
Go,
presented
big
at
dog.
trial. The victim impact statements presented here today. The statements of character witnesses, both orally and in writing. Dr. Harper's report and testimony.
Get him, Mike.
The defendant's testimony. Pre-sentencing investigation. The arguments of the state and the arguments of the defense. Court pronounces sentence as follows. Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life in the Department of Corrections with credit time served that Madam Clerk will provide to you momentarily. There are also court costs and costs of prosecution, which Madam Clerk will give you the totals of momentarily. Due to the court levying a life sentence, the court is inclined to liquidate those to a civil judgment unless I hear opposition from the state.
No opposition, Your Honor.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you could please give us the credit time served and the court costs, please.
4 years, 9 months, and 8 days, and the court costs are $418. State prosecution,
Yeah, yeah.
$100. A jerk fee.
Boy, he smoked Sarah like a slice of Gouda.
So the
You're done. Congratulations to the Torres family for that good.
Ma'am, the court costs and costs of
sentence
prosecution are
being passed.
$618. Those will be liquidated to a civil judgment. You will be given credit time served of 4 years, 9 months, and 8 days. You will have 30 days from today to appeal the judgment. And
He
sentence
wasted
in
no
writing.
time saying.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided to you. I'm going to have
Oh,
the courtroom
gosh.
deputy provide you the paperwork. Because you've been incarcerated for the last 58 some odd months, the court is going to declare that you are indigent in this matter. I cannot appoint the public defender to represent you as they are conflicted out. Similarly, I cannot appoint the regional conflict counsel to represent you for the same reasons. The clerk will appoint an attorney from the conflict wheel who specializes in appellate litigation. And again, you'll have 30 days from today to appeal that judgment.
It's over,
and
y'all.
sentence
She
in
got
writing.
life.
If you have any questions for me. You will now be remanded into the custody of the Orange County Jail to transfer you to the Department of Corrections.
Prison.
And I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah,
State,
but
anything further?
yeah.
No, Your Honor.
You're done.
Defense, anything further?
Good luck, lady.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Lock her up. Lock her up for life.
Court's off the record.
Woo! Woo! There y'all go. Look at her. Look at this little doofus. Let's watch her get one here. Yeah. Justice is served. That judge waited all of 20. He took 20 seconds to pass that judgment down. Woo! He was sick of y'all. He was sick of y'all. Look at her. Now, wait a minute. How could this happen? I thought I'd get time served. Didn't they hear that one lady say that I was nice and I was going to donate a kidney? I was going to give away my fatty liver. Oh, this is injustice. Loser. Get her out of here. Check her little folder. Check her little envelope right there for any contraband slices of cheese, please. Oh, boy. Now I'd like to hear what she has to say. Now I'd like to hear some oral statements from Miss Boone. Go ahead and take her. Bring her up there one more time, Judge. I'd like to hear just a few words. Your cheese is cooked, ma'am. Your cheese is cooked. He's like, yeah, sorry about that, Miss Boone. Yeah, thanks for hiring me. I'll see you later. I got to get out of here. I got lunch at 5. Going to Longhorn Steakhouse with the fellas. Good looking present. Yeah. It's over, lady. Look at that hair.
She's on her way.
Okay. She's going.
Give me a heads up when they get her here. Yeah, I got you. I gotta go down and see her real quick. All right.
She got life, y'all. Life sentence. Life in prison. Life without parole. No chance of parole. She's cooked. It's over. And they offered her a 15-year plea deal. She had already served about 5. She would have did less than 10 years and went home. Doofus.
Just hold on. All you gotta do is sign. I'll help you.
Look at Sarah. She's eyeing that little roller thing over there. She's eyeing that luggage. Look at her. Yes, that was an LWOP, life without parole. Yes, truly, not just a moment for her, but a lifetime. Thank you, Candle Speaker Head. Hey, you're welcome. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. Thanks to all 3,000 people who tuned in. Well, I'm sure there was more than 3,000, but we got up to 3,000 at one time. Awesome. And thank you to everyone who sent memberships. Congrats to anyone who got a membership. And thank you to all the donations. And just for everybody being here, having a good time in the chat. Quit talking people's head off. It's time to go. You're going to miss dinner. Tonight you're having goulash with gnats in it. What an ugly jacket. Hit that like on your way out, y'all. If you leave. Let me see one thing. I might be back. Hang on. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the order for patients. Yes, I do.
Look at Sarah all alone over there. Nobody knows the cheddar I've seen. All right, y'all, listen. We've been over here 2 hours now. Again, thanks to everyone who tuned in. I'm going to work on the Wade Wilson video tonight. Saw there's another call that was posted last night on PCFP's profile. I'll get to working on that. We'll get that going tonight. And I think we got some packages that you guys sent, so me and Ariel can open those at the end of that video tonight if y'all want to tune in and see that. If you're one of the people who sent a package or sent an ornament, we'll get those open tonight on that video. See y'all. Have a good day, and I'll see you a little later.